Hey everybody, happy Friday. Hope you're doing well and you're safe no matter where you are. Thanks for tuning in and being here with me. Let's answer some of your questions. I gotta pull those things up first here. I think I would do this before I hit record. Oh my god, I've had so many emails since yesterday. It's like companies know that stimulus check is coming and they're just bombarding you with marketing emails, huh? Would you recommend the Moore GE200 as my first multi-effects pedal for both live use and home use? I have a $300 budget and I've been picking between the GE200, Boss GT1, and Nux G3XN. Awesome videos, by the way, metal horns. Hey, thank you so much for that question. I get a lot of people asking me for recommendations on gear. I mean, like, all the time. And I always tell them, hey man, like, you have to make that decision for yourself. And I wanna make it clear that I really, really do appreciate that all of you value my opinion enough to ask me, you know, what type of gear you should be purchasing. It's not something that I take lightly at all. The way I kind of look at it is what my job is to try and present you objective information so that you can make a decision. But specifically in this case, if your budget's $300, I don't think you can go wrong with a GE200, and you could probably find one used for even less than $300. And I'm not really familiar with the other products you're looking at, so in this case, you'd probably be happy with the GE200. Thanks for the question. Could you maybe go through all or most of your tattoos and explain why you got them? I want sleeves, tattoos on my hands, fingers, and leg sleeves, pants, but I don't know what to do or why to. Oh man, this is gonna be a long episode. Hey Aaron, thanks for that question, man. So I got most of my tattoos when I was working in a tattoo shop with my best friend who is a tattoo artist. And he no longer tattoos, so I don't get tattooed nearly as frequently as I used to. You know, everyone's always looking for these deep meanings or like purposes to getting tattoos, and I don't really have any, dude. So here's the one on my hand. It's like a diver and like a little gem down there. Then I have Squid Guy there on the inside of my arm. This whole thing never really got finished. Then I have a shark there. And then this is actually from Salem's Lot, if you're familiar with that movie. This is the lady from The Grudge. This is something I drew when I was like 20, I think, and I just thought it was kind of cool, so I got it tattooed on myself. This is Link from The Legend of Zelda from the original NES booklet, if you can see that there. That might be the only tattoo that I have that actually has any real story to it. When I was in my early 20s, I think I was 21 or 22, I injured my back at work. I used to work for UPS, and I had to stay home for like 2 weeks, and I couldn't do anything. I was on the couch pretty much all day, and I actually went back and beat the original Legend of Zelda 1 and 2 for the NES, and that was like the first time I had ever done that in my life. And so I thought I'd commemorate that moment with a tattoo. So I have a bunch of artwork from the book, like that's the hand right there that takes you to the beginning of the level, and that's the sea creature shooting a fireball at him. And on this hand, this is just something my friend drew up and wanted a tattoo on someone, so I was a guinea pig for that. I have this like evil half moon thing up here. This was actually one of the first tattoos that I ever got. This was the first time my friend tattooed me, and this was inside my apartment, and you can tell it's like super faded. It's old, it probably needs to go in. Get the blacks all touched up because it's really, really faded. And then I have like a tree back here, like a spooky tree. You know, when you're young and your friend's tattooing you in your apartment, you have all these ideas like, oh, he's just gonna do a half sleeve in a night, and like, it doesn't really work like that. So, you know, a lot of this stuff just went unfinished, and I never bothered to get it finished because, you know, getting tattooed is a pretty big commitment. Not only does it cost a lot of money, but then you have like the healing time, and depending on where it is, you might not be able to do certain things. So, you know, it's something you really got to think about. I'll show you a couple more here. I have this one on my chest, like zombie head with crossbones and eagle wings, I don't know. And it says Liberate Ex Inferis underneath it, which is save yourself from hell in Latin, for any of you Zeo fans out there. Then I have this guy down here, which I did myself, actually. I just sat there like this and tattooed my own leg. And that one's from my favorite movie of all time, Evil Dead 2. I think that's pretty much it. I don't have any like weird tattoos on my ass or anything like that. Hopefully that settles your curiosity. I have a question for your next viewer commentary. Okay, you're on it. Do you have any tips and tricks for good string muting on riffs that have a lot of single notes and that alternate with chugs or chords? How can one do left hand muting when one needs to jump all over the fretboard? Thanks! Let me really read this and think about this. And alternate with chugs and chords. Hey man, thank you so much for that question. Yeah, there's a couple things here. Typically I mute with my right hand. I don't mute with my left hand that often. Most of the time it's with my right hand. And really specifically for that reason, so that your left hand can focus on playing notes and chords, and your right hand can focus on the rhythm and palm muting. I'm sure I mute with my left hand sometimes and I'm just not thinking about it, but I think like most of the time I'm muting with my right hand anyways. And then the other thing I would say, and this is true for really anything when it comes to guitar, really this can be kind of true for anything that you're trying to learn that you're new at. Slow it down. If you have a metronome, that really helps out, but slow it down and try to learn it slow and then gradually pick up the tempo. And something that might have seemed impossible before will seem a lot easier after you nail it at slower speeds. Thank you for the question. Hope that helps you out. What are your preferred drum plugins? Hey Ronnie, thanks for that question, man. Right now I'm using Perfect Drums, and I bought that because it was on sale, and at the time, I can't remember if Superior 3.0 had come out yet, but I know that I bought that and I've just been using that since because you can blend samples into it, which is how I get the drum sound in my videos. The bass and the snare are actually layered, and that's why they sound, beefier. But I really like that Perfect Drums is really easy to use, especially when it comes to the mixer. It's very simple. The layout's really great. But the one thing that I don't like about the program is that it doesn't have any grooves included in it. So if I want to drag and drop MIDI from the program, it doesn't have that feature. So I would have to say overall, the best drum plugin is probably either Easy Drummer 2 or Superior Drummer 3.0. I know with Superior Drummer 3.0, you can blend samples into your drums, and it also has the functionality of being able to grab and drop grooves directly into your DAW. And I think it also has the MIDI editor built into it so that you can create the grooves before you actually drag and drop them. That's a really, really helpful songwriting tool that I kind of wish that I had. I'll probably upgrade sooner or later. Thanks so much for the question, man. Hey Taylor, I am using the HX Stomp through JBL 305 MK2 monitors. I have good tones at low volumes, but they get muddy at higher volumes. Do you have any suggestions on monitor settings or setup? Hey man, thanks so much for the question. I'm not familiar with those monitors, and that's kind of weird that it would get muddy at higher volumes, but I'm wondering if that's because maybe they're just lower output monitors? I would also ask you what sort of volumes they're getting muddy at, and what are you doing playing at those volumes? If you're playing through your monitors to keep up with the drummer or something, they're just not going to, and they're going to sound like that. Any speaker, the louder you turn it up, the less it's going to articulate, and the more muddy it's going to get, because it's going to be pushing a lot more air, and that's going to translate into low end, and that's definitely going to muddy up your sound. So what I would say is, if you're looking to play at louder volumes, maybe just get like a power amp in a cabinet, or like a powered FR speaker, something that's really made to be played at those loud volumes. And then the other thing is, if you're using your studio monitors for mixing, you really don't want to be mixing at loud volumes anyways, because you'll induce ear fatigue a lot quicker. For those of you who aren't familiar with that term, what ear fatigue is exactly what it sounds like when your ear is listening to so much music that eventually it gets fatigued and you cannot hear higher frequencies anymore. So yeah, I don't know if that helped you out or not, but hopefully that answered some questions for you. I've heard so many people call their MXR full bore metal the bucket of bees pedal. I like using mine on my budget Marshall G100R. I've tried it on a few of my tube heads, but I just can't seem to fine tune that sweet spot like I can on the solid state amp, ? Hey Mike, thanks for that comment. I think is it a question? I actually ordered a MXR full bore metal pedal after my viewer comments last week. When I was asked about it, I went on to eBay and I actually found one for pretty cheap. So I ordered that. It should be here soon, and I will be demoing that in the very near future. And maybe when I demo it, I'll do it through a solid state power amp as well as a tube power amp, and that way I can see what you're talking about and maybe figure that problem out. Thanks so much for the comment, man. Hi Taylor, have you ever played a Bugera 6262 or 6260? If so, what do you think about it? What's your opinion? Cheers from Portugal. Hey, thank you for the question. Let me look up those amps. I've only played one Bugera in my life, and I felt like, about it. Okay, so those amps look like they're sort of based off the 5150 and the 5153, maybe? I don't know. I had a friend who had a Bugera amp that was based off the 5150. I'm not sure what model that was, but maybe that's the 6260 you were talking about. And as far as sound, it sounded fine, but that was the only one that I played. And the reason I've never really been interested in Bugera amps is because they had a reputation for catching on fire back in the day. And the friends that I did have that had them said that, they would overheat and that they had issues with them. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I never really paid much attention to it because I just saw them as like these cheap knockoff amplifiers. But I know a lot of people own them and really enjoy them, and I'm sure they have figured out some of their quality control issues. Like I said, this was over 10 years ago, and if it gives you a tone that makes you happy, then I say go for it. Thanks so much for the question. The main question with multi-effects units is transparency. Does this change or modify your guitar's tone a lot? That's a huge issue for me with a lot of Line 6 and many other products. My tone is compressed heavily when going into the pedal, so any guitar I plug in sounds similar. Hey man, thanks for that question / comment. I've never really noticed that with any Line 6 products, so you know what? Here, let's check that out. Okay, so I've never really noticed that happening with any of my multi-effects units, but let's see if that's the case. This is a stock Ltd Eclipse, so it just has the stock humbuckers in it, and let's try it in a few different configurations. Here's the bridge pickup. And then here's the bridge coil tapped. Here's the neck pickup. This is a mostly stock modern player Telecaster. It has the stock pickups in it, so let's listen to this guitar and see what it sounds like. Here's with the coil tap. Here's the bridge pickup. You know, it's kind of hard to compare with all the high gain. Let's put it on a clean amp and then compare them. Let's listen to the Ltd on the clean channel. So those two guitars sounded pretty dramatically different to me when I was using a clean amplifier, but they sounded pretty similar when I was using the heavily overdriven amplifier. So maybe that has something to do with it. I would also say check your impedance. If you have it set to auto, maybe that's why it's doing it as well. But anyways, yeah, interesting. Thanks so much for that comment. How am I supposed to hear the guitar tones under the mush of everything else? I want to hear the units by themselves. Hey man, thanks for the comment. That's why I have a soloed section in the videos. Like in the video that you commented on. Like that exact video. Just so you guys are aware, I get a lot of like requests and comments and advice on how I should be doing my shootouts and comparisons. What I've kind of settled on is comparing the units both in a mix and then soloed as well, so that you can hear, you know, just what's happening to the guitars with no post-production. So anytime you see one of my shootouts or comparisons, there's going to be a soloed section in there. So, you know, just fast forward. Thanks so much for the comment, even though you didn't watch my video. Sick cup, brah! No, seriously, that's a nice cup. Made in Portugal? Hey Maynard, I actually already responded to this comment, but Maynard's talking about this cup right here. This is the cup that I typically drink coffee out of every day. You know, not the same exact cup, but they all look like this. And no, this cup is made in Finland by a company called Iittala. There you go. Interesting fact of the day. What's up? Got out Mrs. Kelly? Hey, thanks for that comment. This was on a live string, and I got out my Jackson Kelly because that is the guitar that I typically play live with my band. And in my live stream, I was just playing through our set. Which, by the way, if you want to see more live streams, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know specifically things you'd want to see as well, and I will see what I can do about them. That was my first live stream, and I had a bunch of technical issues, and it was a big learning experience for me. But in the end, it was really cool that I actually got to talk to all of you guys in real time. And it's something that I really want to continue doing, so hopefully I see all of you there on the next one. Alright guys, that's going to be it from me. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure to leave them down below. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye! Alright, I think that's it. Holy shit, it's like an hour of footage.